Welcome back to Parley, a series where you folks support the other stuff I make by paying me monthly to discuss the topic of your choice. And this month, DerpyTW has chosen a battle against the antithesis. This is kind of a thought experiment or improvisational response one. Derpy says, even less bound than usual by, what you'd normally give me in terms of directions for this parlay. Cool, we're going to have a lot of freedom to interpret. Here's the setup. In a cyberpunk dystopian world, the antithesis have come to Earth, and you've been chosen by another alien race to fight in their proxy war. Good news, the enemy of the antithesis are giving you the tools to defend yourself, but they won't help otherwise. It's given that you'll become a slayer of aliens, so now's the most important part. To do it in style, obviously. What would your loadout be? Some close-range heavy armor melee shotgun brawler in Doomguy fashion? Maybe a long-range sniper focusing on the threats no one else can breach the armor of? Perhaps you use some kind of explosive weaponry in order to terraform the battlefield? Or maybe you want to have a launcher that shoots jelly beans that explode into rainbows to kill the antithesis. If there's something you can imagine you can use it, just make sure to make plenty of style points along the way. The antithesis are mostly melee with some range, think like Deep Rock Galactic, in terms of rough enemy shape, form, and numbers. Got it. Let's suit up. Now, we have two basic conditions by which I need to choose the things I'm going to use to fight. The first condition is that, we know their makeup, and we know that I'm kind of alone or defending myself. I'm going to be fighting with other people, but they might not be people I know. We don't know the exact conditions there. I may be in a group, I may be by myself. We need something quite self-sustaining, I think. Something that will not involve getting support from our alien benefactors beyond the initial moment. In other words, we're kind of getting a grant or like an open check one time, and we need to take the piss out of that offer so that we have everything we need to gallivant around the galaxy safe with only the equipment we get so far. So things that sustain themselves, things that I can repair, stuff like that, that's going to be very important. Two things immediately come to mind. First of all, a biofuel reactor of some kind, some way to turn the antithesis corpses into fuel to power my weapons. And this probably means that I want to use an energy-based weapon rather than something that uses like cartridges, although depending on how advanced this technology is, you could fabricate the cartridges too. Like you could have a gun that prints ammo into itself. That's a sci-fi trope that I absolutely love. But anyway, something like an energy weapon might be a little bit safer, basically, because then we don't have to worry about exactly how I'm going to fuel it. So that's the first thing. I think a gun that can use the corpses of the enemies that I kill to create more fuel for itself, ammunition or just energy or whatever. I suppose you could just use solar panels at that point, but come on, where's the style points in that? Yeah, basic Doom guy knockoff. Come on, we gotta convert the enemy corpses into fossil fuel, biofuel. Freudian slip. The second thing is some instruction. Yes, it sounds like I was just kind of plucked out of my daily life and put into this scenario. So it would be wise to get some information. It seems like having an AI assistant a la Cortana would be advantageous in this situation. However, I have some concerns. First of all, if I'm asking the aliens to provide me with this, won't they make sure that classified information is nowhere to be found? And second of all, do I actually want someone nattering on in my ear? What can we do about this? Is there a good solution? Maybe I should instead have like comms hacking technology. It might be better, it might solve some problems if I gather the information for myself, gain the parts to get it myself. And then they might restrict my ability to directly access their information. They'll limit how powerful my hacking technology can be, but it's possible that I could use it to acquire the information I need elsewhere. After all, we're not going to do something so gauche as to trust the enemy civilization that is providing this technology to be utterly harmless. No, absolutely not. In fact, we may need to turn on them someday. So again, some form of adaptation would be valuable here. If there's a way I could jimmy it such that they'll give me technology that lets me like access their information somehow, then of course that's great. But it might be better again to focus on you know, kind of like information piracy and to loop back around to that later. You know, over the years, I could figure out a way to make sure I'm playing every side and I've got the information I need. So some kind of assistant or something like a universal key to hack into various radio frequencies or whatever comms we're using in space or wherever we are. Are we fighting on Earth? Let's assume we're fighting at least partially on Earth. How about that? And that there are spaceships and such. Probably there are spaceships. Like, I could acquire a spaceship. We should probably ask for a spaceship. so we're getting a spaceship. And the thing I'm imagining is a little bit Jedi Starfighter. If you're not familiar, I'm not really the biggest Star Wars fan, but something I did always like was that they had details like the hyperdrives for small Jedi Starfighters would stay in orbit. So if you haven't seen these before, the Jedi Starfighters are really small. They're really sleek, very, very, very compact, so that you can park them in various places, various conditions on various planets. There's a slot for a droid as your assistant, possibly what I'm going to get as my like Cortana or hacking interface thing. You know, it might just be like an R2D2 that can plug into stuff, or it might be, you know, a sexy robot girlfriend or whatever. I don't know. Let's not worry about that too much here. But obviously for style points, it should be the latter. Anyway, and so they're very small. You're imagining that these are, you know, if I lay down next to one, it's maybe only about twice as long as I am tall. They're not large, these Jedi Starfighter style ships. They're not a home, in other words, which maybe that's a bad idea. I'm going to have to think about that. But anyway, and so the flavor, I guess, in the Star Wars world is that they're too small to have a hyperdrive. Instead, a ring that they can lock into waits in orbit, and they can like attach to it and then, you know, jump to light speed and go places like that. And then just kind of leave it there and head back down to the next planet, which I think is, I've always just thought that was a really cool idea. Having a somewhat modular ship really appeals to me. The idea that you can use, you know, we want really versatile things here. The idea that you could use it to fight comfortably in a dogfight in the orbit of a planet, as well as still being able to travel around in space. But it does seem unwise to not be able to kind of comfortably live in it. That seems bad. Could we get one that had some kind of balloon? It sort of like pops a spaceship, a space station out from the top of it. I'm imagining like the cockpit, a little bit like the orbiters in Warframe. You know, you've got this little orbiting ship, and then there's like the bigger ship that is your orbiter, but this is going to be like an inflatable one. This is maybe a little bit of a stretch from a sci-fi perspective. We have a material that can just inflate to be the shape of a living quarters, yet is durable enough to be used in the vacuum of space. Whatever, it's a sci-fi thing. That's what we're doing. That's I get to say. You said I have a lot of unilateral ability to interpret this, so that's we're hand waving that. I think we want these things to be small, difficult to find, easy to cloak, easy to hide, easy to park, but still providing the necessities when we need them. This droid, and I do want it to be a droid. I think we're going sexy robot assistant, but also that has like the hacking and the terraforming. This is where we're going next. Yes, I was inspired by what you said, and we will get to weapons, I promise, about making the battlefield a place that is to my advantage. I think that it is useful, important, to be able to create a livable environment on the move, to clean up radiation, for example. And this could have many implications. There could be many good reasons for this. First of all, just because I have a space that I can live in, my inflatable thing that comes out of the starship, doesn't mean that if I find allies, or just like my friends, that I have a space that's comfortable for them. So being able to create a sort of biodome on a relatively arbitrary planet, on Venus or Mars, on Earth after radioactive fallout kills most of civilization, etc., I believe is quite beneficial. That would be nice. And I also think that it could be helpful for things as simple as growing food, depending on how much we can manufacture things with nanomachines or whatever. Maybe we don't need that, but it's a helpful ability. If I'm going to have this sort of droid or AI assistant, and I do really want that, I'll talk about that in a sec. I think that one useful thing to get covered is this idea that they can kind of take care of basic life necessities, that we don't need to worry about exactly what environment I'm in. They can maybe go test the atmosphere, for example. We parachute them out of the starfighter from low orbit, and they go check on the planet's atmosphere and living conditions and stuff. Looking before you leap is one of the first rules in this type of situation. And so another thing that I want this AI assistant to be is part of my combat loadout. First of all, I would like them to engage enemies that I haven't seen before so that I can get familiar with their capabilities before I fight them. It's just asking for it to fight an enemy without gathering information. How pedestrian. And of course, second, the starfighter will be able to release some drones, by which I have a guiding system. I was inspired a little bit by the second season of Westworld. Minor spoilers for the second season of Westworld. Quite minor, really only world building things, not the plot. It seems that in the level of advancement into the future in Westworld and in the modern society outside of Westworld, in Westworld, which is where we go in the third season. Anyway, we're not too far in the future. This scenario is significantly further in the future than Westworld season. I think it's season 3. I don't remember, but if you've seen the show, is. And a piece of technology they have that I thought was really immersive, like a really believable, like near future sci-fi detail. The people using guns largely have them kind of attached to their arm. They have sort of like an arm piece or like a rather lengthy glove. And the way that this works is they've got, a kind of bullpup machine gun that probably has a lot of recoil. And they also have a sort of AI guiding system, like an aimbot, that aims it for them by moving their arm manually, which some of the characters make really snide comments about, like having something aim for you. But let's not be arrogant. There's no style in arrogance. We should be humble and understand that I'm not some kind of godlike marksman. I have no idea what situation I was plucked out of when I entered this situation. So getting technology that prevents the need for me to be good at shooting things is a good idea. Another reason this is really important is that I have an incredibly strong jump reflex. When something startles me, I have a very, very, very quick, jump reaction reflex. This is good for getting out of the way of things, that's why it evolved after all. But it's really bad if you have a weapon like a gun and you would need to quick draw and shoot. While I'm flinching, I'll be killed by whatever surprised me. So having a weapon that can react for me in that moment is great. In fact, it can probably link into my biometrics and use my quick reaction to know, oh my god, there's danger, use the drone to find out where it is and just shoot it before, my user wakes up from their flinching reaction, right? This will probably save my life countless times, and it will look badass. You come up and jump me, and I go, whoa, but my arm is already going, and shoots you in the back of the head from behind me. Fantastic. You gotta love it. Adaptable earplugs that mute the sound of my own gunfire dynamically as I'm shooting so that I don't go deaf is also a very good idea. Now, as for the actual gun itself, I described a sort of bullpup style weapon. If you're not familiar with these, this is the idea that rather than, you're picturing a traditional assault rifle, the magazine is kind of in the middle, there's the long barrel, and then there's a stock that you use to brace it on your shoulder. You're imagining this? Probably if you're imagining a generic assault rifle nowadays, you're imagining the right thing. Now, bullpup style weapons have their magazines in the back, so in the stock. The bullets are here instead of here. And the idea of these weapons is that the weapon is shorter in total, but I believe generally a little less accurate because you get less barrel length to stabilize the bullet as it's spiraling out. I don't know that much about guns, but in any case, I played a lot of Humans vs. Zombies in college, basically tag, but the people that are not it have guns that can stun the people that are it. It's that simple. The guns are Nerf guns. And in my Humans vs. Zombies group, we had a really important rule that if you tag someone's gun, it counts as tagging them. So if you bring a huge, those stupid, gigantic motorized ones that sound threatening and are like real gun-like or whatever, it's supposed to be a toy. That should be nerfed in some way, and so you can tag the gun. It's really good in the Humans vs. Zombies game I played to have a weapon that stays close to the body, and so I did. Of course, Nerf darts also don't stabilize as they spiral out of the barrel. That's not, it's just the spring pushing a foam dart out, right? So bullpup weapons really have no drawback in the world of a Nerf gun. There isn't really a reason not to use them. I don't think I'm going to be sniping enemies from long range particularly often, so I'm perfectly fine with having the bullpup style weapon. It's okay if it's not ultra accurate, especially if I can offset that by using that kind of AI guided, biometrically linked aiming system that I described. I think a really solid idea. Additionally, it would be good to have a secondary weapon, especially on the other arm. So we're going to add a sort of hidden blade style pistol that can be shot like that. Probably this is going to be a micro missile rather than a single bullet, something where when I need it, I can make a moderate sized explosion. This is obviously just badass, being able to whoosh and Spider-Man your wrist to explode a group of aliens. As you casually walk away, your other aimbot arm shooting all the enemies in the air following you. Classic, of course. You're all casual, your arms are popping off and killing aliens all over the place. And you've got your very impressive looking AI assistant, robot, sexy girlfriend terraform machine following you and covering your back. Just a glorious loadout all around. But the other reason this is useful is that it means that I can swap hands if I need to keep attacking while modifying my bullpup weapon into its final form. We'll move on to the final section. Obviously, we do actually want a long-range weapon here. I imagine that this will take a little time to unload. Now, the weapon that I'm picturing, if you'd like to go look something like this up, is kind of comically large. I feel like you need kind of an ace up your sleeve or a big gun. That's just, of course, you need that. And it's probably going to be a railgun or some kind of lightning weapon. This is going to be something without travel time, that just, it's an overwhelming force weapon, and it takes a little time to set up, time that I can defend myself during using my armaments on my other arm. So this is going to be like rooted to the ground. What I'm picturing is Mashu's, what's it called? Oh no. Anyway, pretty big spoiler for Fate Grand Order. So skip the next 30 seconds if you don't want that. Mashu eventually gets given a forbidden piece of technology from the Atlas Institute that allows her to basically like magically like causality lock the death of a target by recording the, time that they're going to die based on the other factors of their existence, like using the butterfly effect or something. That's a bit magic for our setting, of course, but the gun it's just huge. It's got a big old, sort of like a bolt action rifle style barrel. It's like 10 times the size of her, and you get this nice like blacklight lightning bolt that cleaves through the enemy's chest when it fires. It's just glorious. I do also personally think that it's valuable to have some kind of morale based effect, a weapon that looks like some kind of disaster hitting enemies, if it's going to be a big weapon anyway, is perhaps a little bit better than something more subtle. I've also picked largely quite down to earth, quite subtle weapons so far, so I want a big gun. Probably this is going to involve like you got to stabilize it, right? So our AI companion will have to unfold part of their shoulder or back to form part of the barrel, and then I'll attach my bullpup like arm thing to it, and we'll get this big length that we'll be able to aim together. We can use the targeting drones and the AI companion's eyes to triangulate the position of the enemies. Something we'll do the physics calculations. Again, I can't aim this. I don't know. And then that will hopefully handle the recoil as well. You're imagining the AI companion staggers their legs and these little stabilizing thorns, like a little bit like cowboy boot spurs, come flipping out of their feet, hook into the ground to make sure we don't go flying backwards when we shoot this weapon. And then everything folds back up. Again, this might take a second, so it's important to have some armaments on my arm. Yes, that should mostly do it, shouldn't it? I was quite interested in creating some kind of chemistry lab. This is another reason I want to be able to spread out in a terraformed bubble on a planet rather than just living in space. I want to chemically engineer something that will react with the blood of the enemies, and when this gigantic weapon hits a target, to turn their blood into explosive that will chain react and kill a bunch of enemies in a group. Something that I've always found frustrating when you play a game with a lot of enemies and you fire an explosive weapon or an AoE weapon of some kind, is when like there's that one enemy on the edge that lives. No. Like we need to have some kind of biocontaminant that also kills that enemy too. Something that modifies the genetic structure, the chemical structure of the enemy's blood or whatever they have, such that they will become volatile and explode. I'm not sure how that works, but you said that I have a lot of freedom to interpret, so that's what I want. That seems pretty complete. Do we need anything else? I've got a companion to cover my back, an assistant to like help with the mental load of figuring stuff out. Even something as simple as like when you're driving around, I play Apex Legends with a couple of friends I've mentioned before on Parley, and it's so helpful to have someone to just navigate while you're focusing on driving. So even something as simple as that is very valuable. And having a companion that doesn't need to sleep is also pretty important. Although I wonder if this is an open-ended enough cyberpunk environment that I could consider simply becoming augmented in such a way that I myself do not need to sleep. I think that that's going far enough that this parlay would take way too long to answer. I could get way off track and talk about like, oh yeah, I just become a cyborg. Like, and there's these 50 things that I want as a cyborg. And we wouldn't actually get to what it sounds like you're asking, which is like, okay, but how do you like fight the aliens? Which is what I've tried to describe in as much detail as possible. How are we going to stay on the move, remain versatile and flexible, while also having powerful armaments to handle any situation? Anything else? And I don't think so. But personally, I feel this was it wasn't very greedy. Maybe the turning the aliens' bodily fluids into an explosive that chain reacts and kills them all is a little greedy. Having a giant railgun that turns the aliens' bodies into explosives, yeah, okay, that's a touch greedy. But everything else, maybe not. But I was interested in something a little more down to earth. As Robert Frost once quipped, having poetry that doesn't rhyme is like playing tennis with the net down. Not particularly my cup of tea either. It depends, but hitting a tennis ball is fun, but I would prefer to have some sort of restriction. Derpy, it was fun to get to impose those restrictions myself, rather than having too many specific things from you, but I hope I still hit the marks that you were interested in. There actually is one more thing. One of my favorite fantasy or magical or techno-magical items, technological marvels, how's that for some words, is this one magic card, and I have it right here, so I'll show you. And I would like these. I want to have these. This is the thing that I want. And it's Lightning Greaves. This is a very, very, very rare version of Lightning Greaves that I was given as a gift a few years ago. Its value has appreciated to several $100s. This is almost the most expensive thing I own, besides my computer, maybe. Anyway, very, very nice thing that I have. It's not almost it's one of the more expensive things I own. Okay, I'm not a rich folk, so this is a prized possession of mine that I got from some very dear friends. And what you can see is that they're lightweight, stylish boots that have, I'll read you the flavor text. This match set incorporates aetheric accelerators and deflection matrices in an elegant, wearable design. Because, of course, it wouldn't do to be unfashionable while kicking some ass. Yes, having some kind of boot that allows me to move faster is going to be absolutely necessary. Now, can these be rocket boots that have the stabilizing kind of auto-guiding mechanism that my weapon has on my arm, such that having rocket boosters on your feet would be very difficult to stabilize, but if you have a computer program that stabilizes your legs for you, or like helps you hold that position, that could be okay. So maybe we do something like that. Maybe that's all right. That's a good hack to make it so a jetpack that is a lot more wearable, it's on your feet. There's not like rocket fuel coming out and burning your ass. That's maybe good. And then, of course, I want these to allow you to move quickly as well, incorporating some kind of friction reduction effect and allowing you to simply run quicker by firing boosts of energy from your feet. Seems like it would be incredibly useful. And having a bio-linked interface that allows me to right myself like a cat does when they fall, and put the boots toward the ground to slow my descent automatically, sounds like it would also save my life many, many times. This is a little bit similar to like Star-Lord and his little rocket boots that he has, right? But I'm maybe going a little bit further and having them auto-react for me. I'm a tall, lanky person, so I have a lot of, you could say, angular momentum, potentially, right? I could possibly do some impressive acrobatics, but I could also spin out of control very easily, and I'm an unskilled civilian, for all I know in this example, so we have to make sure that I have some proper help, right? Additionally, having these have some kind of shield generator, in Magic the Gathering, Lightning Greaves also protects the creature that wears it, rather than just making it fast. That's kind of the joy of the card. It makes the creature quick, lets them get in there and do some damage, while also protecting them from harm. Both those things together are what make it so good. And this is much the same. I think one of the most important things to protect in an unknown sci-fi setting is your feet. You gotta go places, you gotta move. Who knows what kind of terrible alien gunk you're going to get toward your feet. So simply being able to shield your feet such that you can walk on disgusting corrosive substances, as well as making sure if you don't get like shot in the foot and become unable to move forward. I get shot in the liver, I can continue running, get back to the ship, and have my AI companion stitch me up with some AI-assisted, biometrically enhanced heart surgery. I said it was my liver, but you get the point. Whereas if it hits my leg, like, I'm just not going anywhere now. So I do think that it's really important to defend that. Finally, yeah, that probably means I should have like a helmet or something. Yeah, we're talking metal plates that present some kind of shield generator. I don't really like having a helmet on my head. I don't think that that gives you maximum style points. But yeah, being able to automatically kickflip and land on the ground before you use your auto-aiming bullpup assault rifle to mow down the aliens that you cannot see behind your head, helped by an auto-targeting system deployed from your spaceship in low orbit, seems like enough style points for me. I also look forward to gaining some comrades once they're impressed by my expert arsenal of equipment. And then, of course, we'll come back around to get revenge on the alien society that so arrogantly made me their proxy champion. Ridiculous. There's no one I champion except myself. Thanks very much for asking, Derpy. I had a lot of fun with it. This was actually one of the quicker on the uptake parlays for me to answer. It's interesting to me, like, reading through parlay requests, I sometimes predict, how quickly do I think I'll be able to answer this in a way I'm satisfied with. And I often get it wrong. Like, I thought, I'm not sure. But I started talking about it and thought, this is fine. I know what I want. Usually I do like a short, maybe 3-minute take. I get started to see what I think about it, and then I cancel that and do the real take. This was one where that happened very quickly. So I hope you were as excited by my loadout as I was. But yeah, not very armored, I don't want to have to carry a bunch of gear. I want to get in there and do some big damage.